Herron. Welcome to the Comfort, Peace, and Freedom podcast. How are you today?
Hey, I'm great. I appreciate you having me on your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're from Athens, Georgia, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Down in the South, football country, home of the Bulldogs.
What's it like down there today?
Actually, it's raining. Storm just blew in, and I'm hoping that the power stays on so we can get through this podcast. But
Sure.
hot and humid for sure.
Well, there you go. So I wanted to talk about, I'm a blue collar guy myself, and we do it the old fashioned way because one of the things that we do is we work on old, wet, smelly, damp basements, and we work on walls that are broken and ready to collapse. So I can't do it. I can't use some of the new technology that is out there, and I wish I could. I mean, I wish I could take a Caterpillar excavator and just dig the whole wall out and be done with it. But we have to be very surgical in what we do because of the fragility of some of these things. But I came across your Instagram, and I got to tell you, it is so cool. And I hope everybody goes to this and checks it out. You make moving dirt with heavy equipment seem like an art form. And I just want to kind of get back to how did you first take me back to your high school. How did you first kind of get connected to this type of industry?
Well, I guess I've always been interested in heavy equipment and machinery. Growing up in Peoria, Illinois, the home of Caterpillar. So I've had family members work at Caterpillar in the factory, in the office, and just seeing the equipment out and about, at the factory just really sparked my interest. And talking to my dad and growing up, he drove a semi for a local steel fabricator. So I was always interested in diesel, anything that would either get out there and work, push dirt, haul things, just something that kids really like to go after. Always played in the sandbox, pushed cars around, tractors. So once I was in high school, I was interested in doing drafting work. And some of that drafting work involved making parts for Caterpillar machines. I was able to learn AutoCAD and then eventually learn 3D modeling and went to work for Caterpillar as kind of like a drafter engineer right out of school. I also went to a technical school, like a 2-year college, trying to do some construction type courses and learn about architecture. But going to work every day and earning money and learning on the job experience was really more up my alley versus sitting in school and trying to figure out what classes I needed to take and what tests to
Right.
do. So the on the job experience just really led from one thing to another. And for the most part, I stayed at Caterpillar and did engineering work for about 9 years. I learned how to build these cabs and wiring inside the machines and got to climb around on them. But really, I wanted to operate the machines as well. So
Yeah.
back to my childhood and wanting to actually run the equipment, I thought, well, my wife and I at the time, we were building a house, and I thought, well, I could probably do some of this work myself. And I bought a small Bobcat skid steer. I think I was about 24 years old at the time. And just thinking, well, I have aunts and uncles who are in business. They do contracting work. And I had an aunt and uncle who was actually helping us build the house. And he's like, you should do it. You could do a lot of your work yourselves. So I did like some grading work, backfill. And of course, I started putting ads out and just word of mouth. And hey, I'll come swing by your home and do some Bobcat work for you on the side. So eventually, it was like I'd work all day, get off, and go do Bobcat work on the side and on the weekends. And
Stuff. So let me ask you this then. So you didn't really need the college part to get into the design part for Caterpillar, right?
Right. So I learned a lot about drafting at a steel fabricator that I worked at. It was called Co-op. So it was basically you go to high school your senior year about half a day, and then the other half of the day you actually go get on the job experience. And it was kind of a vocational technical type deal where you could actually learn a skill or learn something that you maybe wanted to go study or pursue after high school.
And did people, when you made that decision, when I grew up, there was shop class, and you could learn carpentry, plumbing, electric, welding. You could learn home economics. You could learn how to cut hair, how to do nails, how to cook. You could learn all these great things. And then they took those classes out of high school and replaced them with computers, which I always thought was a mistake looking back, because people like yourself almost accidentally discovered how cool it was to be in a trade in that type of a situation. So I like the path that you took. And then you took that and you worked and you designed for a while, and then you got into this machine scenario. And it's funny you say that, because I actually have a track skid steer loader in my backyard right now that I use to move mulch around my property. So and after work, I can't wait to jump on that thing sometimes and just have some fun with it. But then this blossomed into an actual career where you were using this heavy equipment, and you were doing it yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, so I started doing it part-time, and eventually it just became more and more time consuming for me, doing all the estimating, meeting with customers, actually doing the work, getting my equipment to and from the job site. And at some point, I think it was the early 2000s, I decided, well, I need to either give this up and just focus on my job at Caterpillar, or what I should do is just take a leap of faith and see if I can make it work. Because if I don't, then I'm always going to look back and say, I wish I would have done this.
Absolutely.
I wish I would have pursued, something that I enjoyed. So yeah, I did. I jumped into it. My wife was fully supportive of me, and we had one young little boy at the time, and I think she was pregnant with our second one. Where it's like, well, we don't know what we're doing, but we're going to make it work. So uh, I jumped into it and started working with another couple guys, and I had my cousin work for me for quite a while. And I started with the Bobcat, and then I got a Bobcat like backhoe attachment, because I wanted to do some footings. And then I bought a backhoe loader. And then from there, I was like, well, I need a dump truck. I want to do more basement work and sewer work. So I bought an excavator.
Right.
I know it's just like one thing after another. And eventually, we would get to do work for, the cities and different water mains, sewer mains, storm drains, a lot of basements for home builders, residential work, and then commercial work also for like apartment complexes, nursing home complexes.
And during this process, during this time, and again, I want to speak to people who are trying to think about maybe following the path that you and I followed. Did you ever encounter any stigma along the way? Like, oh man, you're really supposed to go to college, or you're just going to be doing this the rest of your life, or you're never going to make any money in that, or all the real money, or all the everyone is going to school and that's what you should do. Did you ever kind of encounter any of that along the way?
Yeah, and part of that was why I made the decision to do the dirt work, because even at Caterpillar, I was like one of the few people. I was probably one of the youngest people there too that was working, that didn't have a college degree. And they'd look at me and say, well, you're still young, you should just go to college and get an engineering degree. And I was like, well, I'm here already. I'm doing some of the work, I'm learning. And even friends of mine, they went to school. I'd always get asked, what school did you go to? When did you graduate? And I was like, well, I didn't. I'm just doing my own thing here. So, my family was supportive, I would say, for the most part. They didn't care if I went to school, as long as I was a productive person in society,
Yeah.
able to provide for my family, and make a good living.
So why do you think why do you think there is that stigma or that almost automatic knee-jerk reaction of, oh well, he's just a bulldozer driver, or he's just an excavator driver, or I mean, what people didn't know or probably didn't connect is, yeah, EJ is doing that, but he also has his own business. He has a bunch of equipment and he's making a killing doing it, I'm assuming, right?
Mhm.
So why do you think that knee jerk or that reaction, that stigma is there? And how do you think we fix that for some young man or some young gal who is like, you know what, I like to work with my hands. I'm not a book learner. I'm not a class sitter. I want to get out there and do something for myself. How do we fix that, you think?
Yeah, I think the stigma's been there for a while and it's still there, that these jobs are dirty. You think about it as, you're going to get out there and you're going to work hard, you're going to sweat, you're going to get dirty. But um, going to college, they're like, well, you can get an office job, be in the air conditioning,
Yeah.
not have it so rough. But really, it's and I even told my kids this, and they're at the age where they're kind of like learning where they want to go in life and what careers they want to do. You got to think about like what do you enjoy? What are the things that you want to do in life? Do you enjoy working outside, or do you want to work inside of an office all day? Think about like your interaction. Do you want to work by yourself, or do you want to work with people? So I think with either picking college as a choice after high school or picking the trades, you got to go back, step back and think about what kind of a career choice you want to have long term. Do you want to have those options to work with people, work out in the field, get out and about, or do you want to sit in an office? Do you want to have some kind of specialized career that does take a college education? So you don't always have to like think, it's only one path, or you're not going to be successful.
Yeah. So if you, all right, so along the path of you doing this, I think we froze again. So one of the questions I had is, you decided to go from a Bobcat, then to a Bobcat with an excavating attachment, then to, a backhoe, and then an excavator. So you were taking risk along the way, right? Expanding your business, right? And doing
That's right.
So what was the reason you were doing that? Because I don't think anybody does anything unless there's a reason or a reward or a bigger picture or whatever. So was there something in your life? Because I talk a lot in Blue Collar Cash about the visualization side. And, you've read the book, that it's not all about blue collar. It's about how you want your life to look like. Figure that out first, and then pick one of the many ways to get there. So what kinds of things drove you to expand that business and continue to take that risk?
Well, I had watched some family members be successful as entrepreneurs, and learning from their footsteps, maybe going at it one piece at a time. And then also our goals for my family, to be a little bit more successful, have a little bit more money to maybe go do fun things, vacations when we want. And then also with the business I was growing, I eventually wanted to, someday maybe turn it over to my kids. But unfortunately, I got out of the business, and that didn't happen. But it still drove me towards my goals where I'm at now. So I think it was a good foundation for me to build on.
And did you and your wife actually sit down and talk about these goals, like write them down, discuss them, kind of put them out there so that you knew what you were chasing? I talk about the fact that we shouldn't wait to have life happen to us. We should happen to life, right? We can take control of that.
At one time I took a class at Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois, and it was about entrepreneurs and how to be successful with your business. And they went through different goal setting ideas and writing down metrics that you could follow and achieve, like a mission statement. What's your 5-year outlook look like? What does your 10-year outlook seem like? And look out towards the future instead of just focusing on the now.
Awesome. and then you decided to take that business that you had, that excavating business, and now you've kind of parlayed it into the high tech end of it. So tell us how you because I think this is really cool. So when I look at your videos that you create on Instagram, you've taken dirt work to a whole new level. I mean, you're talking about, using pretty much screens that you used when you played video games as a kid, or some of the new technology like drones and rovers and things that maybe we played with as kids, but we never really connected to our job. But now you've kind of melded an old-fashioned honorable position, like moving dirt, driving heavy equipment, and making great money doing it, and you've taken it into a new technology. So kind of take us to that next level and how you figured that out.
Yeah. So after my excavating business, I went back to Caterpillar, and I eventually landed a job in the marketing division, working with technology like grade control and the offboard telematics systems, payload. And it was interesting to see how that came into play with the heavy equipment, and how customers wanted to use it, what it would do for their productivity, helping them win jobs just because they had technology to help them. It was just another thing in the toolbox that they could use. So using that experience for a few years, I decided that I wanted to get out into the field. And so that's where I ended up at Scitech South in Georgia. And I'm working with customers day in and day out, talking to them about how to better their operation, their dirt moving operation, how they can be more profitable, attract employees, get more done with less equipment. And so at the time, we didn't have anybody marketing this at our company. So I decided, well, I'm just going to create some online presence with social media, created my Dig It Digital GPS account on Instagram, and just started taking videos and photos of what we were doing, especially with demos. We would go demo this technology to a customer. They would look at it and say, hey, I can see now how this is going to help me. So instead of sharing all these videos and texting them back and forth, I threw them out on the Instagram social media accounts. And I thought, well, if they're benefiting from seeing this, multiple people can see it. And I think it would attract people into this industry, because everywhere I go, I'm hearing that there's not enough operators out there and not enough people to get the work done.
Yeah, that's an absolute fact. And that's why I really love what you're doing, because again, you found a way to take what could be an office job and take it back into the field and really show people how cool it is and how fun it is and how efficient it is and how different it is now to get this work done. And again, I'm going to make sure that we talk about what your Instagram handle is. It's Dig It Digital, right?
Yep. Dig It Digital GPS.
Dig It Digital GPS. Everyone, go check that out. You'll love it. He's put music to these videos. He's got this drone going, and there's just so many cool things that you can see, and so many things that are to the next level technology that I wasn't even aware of, as far as how these things can help create a more efficient a system and a more efficient workflow with these giant machines. And I have to tell you, I've been fortunate. I've driven D9s before. I've driven large trackhoe excavators. I've done a lot of this stuff. Never been in an earth mover, so I'd love to go out and try that once. But I've driven a lot of these things. I've climbed all over, those big Terex trucks and that kind of thing. And I do love the one video in the mine where you sped up the truck coming into the mine and you're loading it really quick, and you sped the truck leaving the mine. That is an absolute blast to watch. So again, I love what you're doing, because you again can find a way to show these companies how to attract new workers. Talk just a little bit about how you feel this work is helping to attract people.
Yeah. So, the younger generation, they're all on social media. That's not a mystery. Everybody has known that. So in order to attract the next generation, we need to present it, I guess, in a way that they would see it. They might be able to visualize themselves doing it, and then also show them kind of what a day in the life of maybe a dirt mover looks like, or somebody who's working on equipment. Just there's so many different facets to it. You don't have to be a heavy equipment operator, but you could be, say, like a salesman like me that deals with the equipment day in and day out. Planning, estimating, engineers. There's also, opportunities to be builders who actually erect the buildings on these sites once the site work is done, or maybe get into some site development with sanitary, water, storm sewer, all
What do
these
you like?
different.
What do you like best? I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but you hit on something there. What do you like best about these jobs? Where, see, one of my contentions in the book is that when you have a business that you kind of control your own input and you control your output, you control the quality of your output, right? You control your day, your time, your schedule, and you control your financial gain. I think that you can't always find that on the 15th floor in some cubicle somewhere where you're just pushing numbers and you don't really know how you fit into the entire picture, right?
That's
So
right.
talk about what you personally feel is some of the benefits of being outside and being in one of these construction jobs, from an overall life and living perspective, if you don't mind.
Well, for me, it was always interesting because you could take a set of blueprints and see a proposed job, and then go out to the site and actually look at it, before anything's happened. There'd be trees out there'd be hills, and then you have to visualize, what you're trying to build. Take that from paper. Now we put it into a technology standpoint with a 3D surface model, and all that information gets loaded to the machines. But then you're actually creating. I think it's more of like an art with some of these jobs with moving dirt. You're actually sculpting the earth, creating it, so that it's going to accept either the new foundation or a new proposed, maybe you're building a golf course or something. I think, anything it could be, but
Right.
you get to actually see it from start to finish. And I think it's a real good satisfaction at the end of the day to see what you've done and actually built with your hands.
Well, it's great because when I look at some of your videos, I mean, I saw the one where it looked like someone was digging a fire line between a couple of stands of pine trees. I don't know if that's what they were doing or maybe utility line, but
Mhm.
I play a lot of golf in northern Michigan and I could literally smell the pine trees when I was watching your video there. So again, for anyone out there who's thinking about one of these careers, there is so many ancillary careers that you can spin off of once you become a heavy equipment operator. You get that experience, you know what it's like. And then maybe like EJ did here, you get into the technological side or you get into the sales side and just keep right on going. So again, one of those things that you should definitely consider. So if you were talking to a group of students right now, and these were students who said, "Hey, EJ, I know that my parents say I have to go to college, and I know my high school teachers are telling me I have to go or else." I mean, my guidance counselors are telling us that, and the colleges are doing a great job of selling their services to us, no doubt.
Mhm.
But we don't feel like we want to do that. We want to start our own company. We want to start our own either excavation business or our own company in some way, shape, or form. What type of advice? Because you've done both sides of it, right?
Yeah.
What type of advice would you give them?
Well, I would ask them how ambitious they are, and based on their answer, they could eventually start a business. I'm working with a few individuals here in the local area that decided that they wanted to go off and start their own business because they didn't want to just work for somebody, clock in, clock out, do the work. They wanted to have more input, have more financial gain, have the opportunity to grow. And there's lots of opportunity right now because of the lack of people willing to do the work. So I think that these jobs are probably more available. Probably you could demand a little bit more money than some of the jobs that you would get going out of college.
Sure.
And the fact that you are not paying for college, you get to start right away and learn on the job and actually get paid. So not to dismiss going to college at all, but I think that's a great route for some people, but everybody has to know that there's also other options.
Well, I was speaking just the other day to a pipe fitter, and he was talking about what you're saying right now. I mean, here's a gentleman that instead of spending $50,000 a year on college and racking up a couple $100,000 in debt over 4 years, and then having to pay that back, hopefully with a job that provides you enough money to do that. He's out there making between $40 and $80 an hour, running his own pipe fitting business. And he did that pretty much right out of high school, went through the classes and learned, but got paid to learn while he was doing it. And that's the difference. He was actually making money while he was learning versus paying money to learn. So yeah, you definitely have to consider the swing between those two when you're making that decision. So we're getting near the end here. I wanted to ask you one other question. A lot of times people will say, well, I'm not quite sure what type of business that I want to start, although I feel like I have the qualifications or the characteristics of being an entrepreneur. So the advice that I give them a lot of times is, well, just look around your community and see what people aren't doing enough of. I mean, use the law of supply and demand to your advantage, right? Where supply is low and demand is high, that's usually where the money goes, right? Because those are the services people need. So keeping that in mind, how would you comment on someone saying, well, I can do one of many businesses. Like I could start an excavating business, I could start a plumbing business, I could start an electrician business, I could start a lot of different businesses. I'm not sure which one to do. How would you tell them to use the law of supply and demand to their advantage in their local community?
Well, I would just maybe think about like what do they need at their own home, or what they need, in their life. Whether it's like getting your car fixed, or just a couple months ago, I called a car dealership and they said, we can't get you in because we got a 2-month backlog. And I'm thinking, well, there must not be enough mechanics to do all the work that they need done. So, I mean, if you're interested in becoming a mechanic, that might be a good opportunity to open a garage. I think I might hit on something here too, that I'm a board member on the Crew Collaborative. It's a nonprofit organization, and we're kind of coming together as a team to present to students that are in school, talk to them about different career options. And then we're also creating a new program called Framework, which would be a mentorship type program. And then what schools could do is their counselors could come to us and get people who are in the different trades to talk to these students about what it is, what it's like in the day in the life of their job. So say a student's interested in plumbing, or maybe like auto mechanics or even dirt moving, we can get those people connected to talk to actual industry tradesmen in their area. And we also do classroom talks too. So just like we're doing here on a web type platform, we can talk to students and say, here's maybe a 5-minute talk about somebody who's in plumbing, or somebody who's in welding, or maybe a pipe fitter. That way, they've got some exposure to it. They've got some ideas maybe to start thinking about what would interest them, to maybe narrow down the path.
Do you think, because you read the book, do you think that having a vision for what you want your life to look like is important before you get to that step?
I think you need to always have that vision, no matter what path you go down. I think going forward, it'll help you, and how to attain that. It probably would drive your ambition to do better, not just to stay, I'm going to only do 40 hours a week, I'm just going to clock in, clock out.
Yeah, right.
But maybe, get more education eventually. Maybe you're starting in the dirt industry and you start as a laborer, or, like yourself, a ditch digger, and
Sure.
you're doing that hard work every day, but you're also seeing the opportunities that are available on the job site, as far as like moving up to maybe a truck driver, heavy equipment operator. But you have to have that goal, have that mindset to have your goals and what you want to achieve. It's not always about pay, but it's always, it's also about better um, life satisfaction, better quality of life,
Sure.
trying to improve on things that you've done in the past to get you where you want to go.
Well, that's exactly right. And I've often said that sometimes it's not necessarily what you do for a living, but what you do with what you do for a living that matters. And you're a prime example of that. You worked in Caterpillar, then you started your own excavating business, and you use that capital to support yourself, and then you use that to find your way into a high-tech version of what you were doing, and now you're out in the field consulting people that did the very work that you used to do. So it's just a great path that you've taken, and now you've built this Instagram presence. You have over 100,000 followers. Did you ever think that was going to happen when you started your first drone video of a bulldozer going through the field?
No, I had no clue of what would happen. I guess I started it and just I never thought, what the future would be, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. But you've taken it to a new art form. I mean, again, you've created music and beauty, and it's just amazing to see what you've done with your page, and I like watching it. I think it's fantastic. And you've also been able to monetize your site, it looks like, and do some other things. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
Well, I did used to sell some hats and shirts. I got out of that though. But basically, I created this social media presence for myself to network myself and come up with like a logo to brand myself. That way, it's easy for people to recognize me, understand the connection between dirt moving and technology. So as long as I'm using that same type of format, same logo, branding, I think people can find me if they're interested. Going forward, I hope to continue sharing all these videos. A lot of people send me content, from all over the world.
Right.
So it's great to see what everyone else does in the industry around the world. So I think it's really neat to have that community come together and grow it. So
Well, I think you've done some really amazing things, because not only have you done what we've already discussed, but you've also added that social influencer kind of aspect. A lot of kids, when you ask them what they want to do for a living, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be a social influencer, and they really don't know what that means yet, because you have to have a thing to be social about. So you have to have a thing to have people want to watch, and so you've kind of created all of that, and you've added this social influencer piece to it as well. So you're kind of hitting on all cylinders, which I think is cool, because someone watching what you do can now say, okay, well, there's a path that I can follow. I don't have to be, some super high fashion person or whatever. I can take what already exists in this world and put it through the same type of path that EJ Herron is put. And it's a very cool thing. So congratulations on what you've done so far. I think
I
it's
appreciate
really
that.
fun.
Yeah, thanks. And I don't know where it's going to grow to, but there's plenty of options for me. Looking forward, I like the marketing aspect of this, and there's opportunities to showcase all these businesses out there and help them build their online presence as well.
Absolutely. Well, again, congratulations. I do have one more thing. If you remember reading in the book Blue Collar Cash, I talk a lot about comfort, peace, and freedom. And to me, it's really what we should all be chasing in life. I wrote this book I started writing it as a letter to my daughter, and it was something that she was suffering from a pretty serious illness, which I know you know about, and it was a very scary time for her mother and and I just kept coming back to, what should if I could write her a story or a letter, what would I write her about advice for life? And it kept coming back to comfort, peace, and freedom. These are the things that I think we should all be chasing. And we're not all going to go after mega yachts and McMansions and 15 cars and a recording artist's career, but if you could live exactly the way you want to live, which is your own personal nirvana, and I call it, again, comfort, peace, and freedom, that would be really cool. If I could design my life the way I want it and then find the ways to get there one piece at a time, I can make that happen. So for you, I'll just ask you 3 quick questions. What or where are you absolutely the most comfortable?
So I would say probably at home in my backyard, and with my family, and we've built a really nice pool in the backyard after we moved here to Georgia. It's kind of one of the things that we really wanted as a goal. Sorry, excuse me. Moving here, we wanted to create, our own backyard oasis. So it's really nice to go back there. It's private. I can relax. The family can hang out. So it's really comfortable. And I think with the peace and the freedom that go along with it, they all go together. I think you can't have one without the other. So with the career that I've had, I've been blessed throughout it, and I've been financially stable now. So a lot of that angst, I guess, with my business and going through the recession really helped me grow as an individual. And me and my wife, we were able to become debt free for the most part, except our house. So that is a feeling of freedom.
That's a feeling of peace, that's for sure. And I'm sure it
Peaceful.
creates freedom, right?
Yes. And so, and I wanted to have a goal of, if we wanted to go do something, we didn't have to worry about it. We didn't have to worry about, saving so much money back, but just being able to have that option to go on vacation when we want, or go out to eat and not have to worry about, are we going to be able to pay for it?
Yeah. And again, that is so important. And I'm glad that you said it, you framed it in the way you did, because getting yourself comfortable, I mean, in a place where you feel, okay, I'm good with who I am, I'm good with my family, I'm good with where I am at in life, and I've worked hard, and I've created a financially free situation, that brings a boatload of peace to anybody. Because what do we worry about? We worry about money, we worry about the future, we worry about these things. So absent worry becomes joy, right? I mean, these are emotions that are choices we put into our heads every day. And I think once you have those two, you have the freedom to be able to do these things and not think so much about them. And that's the full circle. And I think you've done a great job of that. So again, hats off to you. I love everything that you're doing. I hope people go out. Can you tell them one more time where they can find you?
Yeah. So I'm on social media, primarily Instagram at Dig It Digital GPS.
Dig It Digital GPS.
That's
Awesome.
right.
Well, EJ Herron, thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. And
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate it. You're doing wonderful things yourself.
no, thank you.
The book.
Awesome. And we'll keep following you and see where this thing goes, because I'm sure there's great things in your future.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot. And
Good to chat with you.